Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3-0 Take, where we talk all things Major League Baseball. Here's Kyle Corwin and Nate Reyes. It all starts right now.
Welcome back to the 3-0 Take, presented by SeatGeek. This is episode 509. I'll be your host, Kyle Corwin. I'm here with my co-host, Nate Reyes. Nate.
Howdy, partner. Howdy. I know we got a lot of stuff to dive into today, but I needed to point out something that was fairly egregious that I wasn't aware of, that the learning tube of TikTok taught me. And it was a side-by-side comparison of one absolutely great career, someone who just got into the Hall of Fame, who was one vote shy of being unanimous, compared to one of my childhood favorites, Kenny Lofton. And
Crazy.
Kenny Lofton, for those unfamiliar, did not have the required 5% amount of votes to stay on the ballot in 2013, so he was bounced and only spent 1 year on the ballot. And yeah, I think he had like 3% of votes. And the numbers will shock you of how good Kenny Lofton was. And that bugged me. That rubbed me the wrong way. I don't feel good about it. We've already talked about how the BBWA is an absolute joke. And the Hall of Fame has become a joke. This is like 12 years old, though. So I don't know why I'm like just now being caught up and brought into the loop. But that one stings.
It does. And
no knock against Ichiro. Like, I hate the argument of like, let's tear down this guy to build this guy up.
Correct.
I'm never going to be that kind of person. But I think it was just comparison. Like, one guy was one vote shy of being unanimous. One guy led in more categories than not and was removed from the ballot for not getting a vote. Like, this system is broken. And I think he'll probably get into that, like, whatever that late committee thing is. I think he'll eventually get in. But like, dude, come on.
Not to step on your toes here, because I know this is sort of your thing, but the amount of bootlickers that I've been interacting with as of late, defending the BBWAA as if there's some sort of like a righteous collection of individuals. That's not it at all. Like I've talked about, you and I both have talked about for weeks, for months, for years, how they just consistently get it wrong. And people are saying, for the Ichiro example, they're going, well, he got in, so what difference does it make? The fact that, like, this is in reference to the transparency issue that was just made public yesterday, where they released the ballots, and we still don't know who voted for, or who the one person was that didn't vote for Ichiro. We don't know who it was. And people are saying, what difference does it make? He got in. It's like, the fact that you have a collection of people looking at a guy like Ichiro, and I've made this case multiple times already. I don't want to rehash it, but the fact that you have people in that organization looking at a guy like Ichiro and go, no, I'm good. The fact that previously you had those individuals looking at guys like Ted Williams, Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., nah.
Yeah.
Spare me the strategy. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Spare me the strategy.
If the strategy, in my mind, if the strategy is to like, hey, this guy's going to get in anyway, let me use this vote another direction. Do that with like CeCe. CeCe's getting in anyway.
Correct.
But not going to be unanimous. He's not close enough to be. Like, get a guy that's just perfectly solid in the middle. He's getting in, but no chance of being unanimous. And use that vote elsewhere. Keep the Ichiro vote. I don't get it. I don't like it. I'm not about it. Kenny Lofton needs to be a Hall of Famer. That's how this starts. That's how it gets fixed. Probably not just with him solely, but anywho, it's big stuff today, yeah?
Speaking of fixed, little bit of a theme to today's episode. We got to talk players under 25 to bet on in 2025. We also, if we have time, we get to it. We need to talk about this Pat Hoberg situation.
Yeah, we do.
Just briefly.
Tough.
A lot of betting going on in this episode. But let's just get right into it here. Players under 25 to bet on in 2025. This is something I sort of lobbed to you earlier today because, again, we have nothing going on.
Yeah.
And I had people trying to tell me, yeah, this is a great time for baseball fans. NAIA baseball is starting. I hate to break it to you. The average baseball fan is not tuning into NAIA baseball.
No, I'm not.
So that only gets you so far. And then people, again, still trying to convince me that we're at a stage in the baseball offseason where this is something to be looking forward to. I just want spring training to get here, so I know that we're that much closer to opening day. It's that simple. But anyway, let's get into it here. Players under 25 to bet on in 2025. I'll flip it to you. Let's start us off here. We accumulated a list. I said the one stipulation was that we could only have one of these players finish in a top 3 of an award in 2024. So if they finish in top 3 of Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, MVP, you can only select one, because otherwise we would just be running wild with the easy softball picks.
Right.
So I wanted to try to stretch it out a little bit, make it a little more interesting if we could, because let's be honest, baseball is deep in under 25 talent right now. And that's a great sign for the future of the game. And I think 25, and I tweeted it out. I said something to the effect of 2025 has an opportunity to be one of baseball's biggest years yet. And I truly believe that, with the state of the game, with the momentum I feel like baseball has right now, and hopefully with the performance of some of these guys we're about to dive into, I think 2025 is going to be a huge year for baseball.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll get it rolling. First name kind of came to me pretty quick, but I think it's going to be interesting to watch. Mr. Jason Dominguez, a name we've heard rattled around for a few years now, and somebody who got the Mike Trout comparison, and kind of similar body type, has a lot of pop, can play center field. But I'm interested to see how it goes, man. Looks like he's going to be likely the everyday left fielder, which we did see a little bit of he wasn't the only one, but some difficult plays in left field throughout the postseason and September last year. But in reality, he hasn't had much time there. So he's going to get a full spring playing fully left field. And a lineup that definitely could use a solid switch hitter. I'd guess he's probably going to hover in the 6, 7, 8 range in the lineup. But at the same time, the Yankees didn't go get a true leadoff guy. So wouldn't be surprised if you see him eventually lead off. But I think it's a chance that a lot of Yankees youngins don't get, especially he's 21, especially at that age. This isn't something that we've seen in a while. The Yankees are horrible with how they treat prospects, and so far all we've really seen is September call-ups and then a little bit of last year's postseason. Overall, this is his first real chance to play every day, get written down in the lineup every day. And a guy who needs to see ABs regularly at the big league level. Let him struggle, let him figure it out, and he's got to be a part of your future. You held on to him. You said no to trades that included his name. It's time to really just let him figure it out, whether it's a good or bad thing. But if you're being compared to Mike Trout, I'd like to think you're going to be okay, but we'll see.
Speaking of being okay, the first guy on my list, and I'll just go ahead. I'll get the booze out of the way now. I feel like this pick was almost illegal, but I would have been an idiot not to include this guy in this conversation, given that we do get one top 3 award finisher. So I was like, if I'm going to use it, I'm going to use it on this guy, Paul Skeens. Look, it is a very short list. Under 25 or not, there is a very short list of players that I'm looking forward, more excited to watch this coming season than Paul Skeens. And I think you look at the track records of certain guys when they come up in the league, they get up, they either manage the hype or they even, take it up a level and they go and they're making a name for themselves in their rookie season. Paul Skeens obviously did that, rookie of the year. I understand that. I think when you look at those cases, a lot of times you'll see guys take a dip, sophomore slump. I think Paul Skeens, and this isn't a hot take, but I think Paul Skeens is going to be immune to that, even with the amount of attention that he's received. This guy, and we talked about it when he came up after he had been in the league for a couple months, and I think you and I both agree that when you look at him, he's just even keel across the board.
Yeah.
First inning, 7th inning, a no-hitter on the line, a debut, a random Thursday. He's here. And I think that plays. And the fact that he's this young, he's already tasted the success that he has thus far. The fact that he's acquired that skill, in addition to his skill set, the fastball that he brings to the game, the splinker, this and that. To me, that's one of the most important elements of his game, is that he's here. And I think that is going to contribute to such an incredible sophomore campaign. And again, it's not a hot take to say that Paul Skeens is going to find success in 2025, but I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if we're not talking about him as one of the top 3 pitchers in the game. Again, under 25 or not. Yeah. Because,
for sure.
What he's already done, and I think what he's poised to do this year, when you bet, you have to sprinkle in some surefires in there, and I think Paul Skeens is one that we can safely and confidently look at and go, he's fine.
Yeah, dude, and he gives horse vibes. He gives 200 inning, 250, 300 strikeout type guy on a rolling regular basis. And it gives me chills knowing that still exists in a game where it's not common. I think the way he trains could potentially make sure that he stays away from injuries. It's almost like, I hate that we have pitchers now where it's not even the first one. It's now, let's get 2 TJs out of the way before we can really feel okay, this guy's off and running, which is terrifying and scary. I think the way he goes about his business can keep him healthy, dude. I agree with you. I agree that I don't think that was a fluke. I don't think this is he's the real deal.
A comparison that as you were talking about that, the horse element, it's in there, it's in there. And we already saw it last year. He wanted nothing to do with inning limits. He just wanted to come up and let it eat from start to finish. But they obviously had restrictions on him, which I understand to some degree. But a comparison that comes to mind when I'm thinking about that, and tell me if you agree, because you watched him pitch earlier in your baseball watching career, Mike Mussina, a guy that is very, again, going back to this, he's very much here.
Yeah.
But he wants to let it eat. And I can't help but think of that clip when he's telling Torrey to sit down. He's like, no, I got this. And that may or not play in today's game as much. Like you'd have to have a little bit of a career in your back pocket
for sure
to get to that point where you're waving off a manager. But that it's there, and it's in his DNA for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I like that comp. When I see him on the bump, I feel like there's like this fearless intimidation kind of thing. And I was he gives me like, I'm not going to say Nolan Ryan. I don't think anybody's Nolan Ryan, but he scratches that surface a little bit, and he's in this like Randy Johnson, Bob Gibson, like kind of territory that you could see him being that way. You know what I mean? Like you could see that, like, this may be a guy as a hitter that I don't want to make eye contact with as I'm stepping into the box. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of good players in baseball, and then there's a select group that are alphas. You know, like a Juan Soto is an alpha. That guy will look at anybody and say, let's go. And I feel like I gotta already put Paul Skeens in that conversation. And I love it.
Are there any Hall of Fame pitchers we didn't sprinkle in there when talking about Paul Skeens?
Dude,
I love it.
Right?
I'm excited, dude. I
am too.
Very much. That's one of those guys, not really related to what we're talking about here, but that's one of those guys whose jersey I would snag, like outside of my own teams.
You can't go wrong with the Pittsburgh slate. Black and yellow. You know what I mean?
Give me a Skeens uni, dude. I'm excited. Anyway, who you got?
Well, I mean, I'm going to drop it down a little more under the radar than that. I'm going to head over to the West Coast, to the black and orange San Fran baseball giants. Give me Kyle Harrison, 23 years old. Saw him get a solid amount of innings under his belt last year. Made 24 starts. I'd like to see a little bit of like a development of a fourth pitch. I was looking at his pitches. Just a fastball, slurve, changeup guy. Threw one curveball last year. One. And I feel like I'm just going to go ahead and chalk that up as like someone accidentally
misfire
hit curveball instead of slurve. So I'd like to see him throw a fourth pitch in there. But like I love the opportunity that young pitchers in big ballparks have. And a guy that like doesn't necessarily need to be the dude quite yet. Like that weight is still being carried by a Logan Webb. You got Robbie Ray coming back this year. They signed Verlander. I feel like Verlander could be something we always talk about, like signing those veterans and being a presence and what those conversations can be. And I don't think people really understand the value of that, because you can go over any interview with any baseball player at any point in their career, and you talk and you ask that question of like, who was the biggest impact? More often than not, it was a conversation or a year or an opportunity to share a locker next to a guy who has been there, done that. So having Verlander in that locker room, having those 24 starts under his belt last year, like I think it's time to like kind of settle in. He's got a big ballpark to work with. Starting the season in San Francisco where it's kind of cold and windy and like it's very pitcher friendly. I think it allows him to really settle in quickly and get going. So I think he slots like right in the middle of that rotation, maybe fourth. And he's going to get his opportunities. So, and I did a little digging into like he had a brief little stint in 2023 And then he dropped his arm angle down last year. And we see a lot of lefties that are starting to do that and just kind of play with that slot and play with that tunneling. So I'm interested to see what he can do. I know it's not like a huge sexy pick, but I do think he's really good. So we'll see. We shall see. Plus Jordan Hicks is there. You know, another year coming out as a starter. Like that's not a terrible rotation. So not a whole lot of spotlight on a Kyle Harrison.
Well, you mentioned spotlight, and then we'll move on to my second pick. But you know, the National League West is going to get a lot of attention this year between who we can go ahead and presume will be the top two finishers in that division, Dodgers and Padres. But it's possible that you get some veteran voices in that clubhouse, which they already have. And it's possible that maybe they play that to their advantage a little bit. They say, nobody is talking about us right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, understandably so, but let's lean into that a little bit. And, you know, if you get a guy like Kyle Harrison, if you get a bounce back like I talked about a couple episodes ago from Justin Verlander this year in 2025, who's to say that they don't maybe make it into the dance at the very least? Like, just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Bringing it back out east. Swing it back out to the East Coast.
Swerve in the corner. Whoa.
I didn't know you were about that life.
I mean, it's on.
You're on TikTok. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay.
Jello. Is that his name?
One of the Ball brothers.
I feel like it's Jello.
It's Jello. I don't know how to pronounce it. Jello. Is it Jello?
I don't know. I think there's Jello. There's Mello.
It's Jello. I know for sure. I just don't know how to pronounce it.
No, there's also a Mello.
No, I'm saying it's Jello. Like the guy that does the song. Anyway, whatever. Swerve. Whoa. My guy, number 2, James Wood.
Good one.
I like having a guy. I think I've maybe alluded to this before. I like having a guy right down the road that I know that I can go watch. And this is good. Honestly, it's a toss-up. You could say it's a toss-up for me between James Wood and Dylan Cruz. But for the sake of this exercise, I decided to go with James Wood, even though I'm probably equally as excited to watch a full season of Dylan Cruz. But this guy's just raw power. And I was watching some of his footage earlier. His ability to stay on plane is unreal. And I think that combined with his power is going to play very well with a full for him in a full season, because I think having a little, it's not the greatest protection, I'll give you that, but having, who was it? It was Nate Lowe, I can never remember, and Josh Bell behind you. It's, again, not the greatest protection, but at least it's a little bit to help, because right now he's presumably slotted in the 3-hole there in the lineup. I think having just a little bit of protection to help him get his feet off the ground, I think, and bringing back Josh Bell to me is helpful, because sort of a similar situation there where you've got some power from the left side. He's been there. He knows what to expect from that organization and fan base. He can sort of help him out a little bit. I think, I don't know, man. He's the projections statistically for him are not great. Like they're all, well, tell me what you think of these. He's projected right now for 18 home runs and an OPS of 726. Do you think,
I see more juice than that.
66 RBIs?
I see more juice. I think he gets
73
over 20.
RBIs, excuse me.
I'd put the line at like 24.5, and I'd probably take the over. I probably would.
Is it insane?
It's got crazy pop.
Is it insane to project him at a possible 30 home run season this year?
I think he'll flirt with it.
And excuse me, I was looking at Josh Bell's. He's projected 18. James Wood, not much higher though, 20. So even then,
yeah,
a 30 home run
season.
season.
I think he gets over that. He's good, man. He's good. I don't think a whole lot of people know who he is. I think the Nats are coming. I think they're a few years around the corner from
and that's what I was going to
really
say. That's what I was going to say. I'm not terribly thrilled about the state of the Nationals right now. I know I was really trying to push that hard a year or two ago, where I was like, just give it time. I don't think they've taken the steps necessarily to getting closer to the finish line, per se. But I think a big year out of bringing Dylan Cruz into the mix here. If you get some all-star caliber seasons out of those two guys, I think it just pushes it forces the issue a little bit more. You're going, okay, we've brought up these young guys. We now need to surround them with some help here. And I think James Wood can play a huge role in getting the ball rolling a little bit quicker.
Yeah. CJ Abrams. Let him figure out the glove somehow, some way. If not, slide him a second. Like there's a lot going on in DC I want to keep my eye on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would definitely like to see Abrams take a little bit bigger of a step into adopting somewhat of a leadership role. Not that he has to be the veteran voice.
He banged last year, didn't he? He got after it a little bit.
Yeah, he had but then if you remember, he had that didn't he have that run in? Am I misremembering? Didn't he have that weird
weird like sent down
issue
the curfew thing?
Like that. You just you just hate to see stuff like that. So I'm hoping that he's able to take a step forward in being a more vocal voice, a more sort of lead by example kind of guy this year. Because again, between those three, that's setting up some huge potential for the Nationals beyond 2025.
Well, I like this alternating from the East Coast to the West Coast thing that we've got going on.
Taking it back out west.
I'm taking it back out west. You had your big man going first. I have my big man going last. And some said that he should have been Rookie of the Year. I'm on the fence about that because your guy was pretty dang good. So give me Jackson Merrill with the San Diego Fathers. He is 21 years old. Look, man, I mean, just reading off some numbers here. First off, he played 156 games last year.
Love it.
I freaking love that. I love that. Good on the Padres for giving him a chance, letting that play out. And look what you got out of him. 127 OPS plus, an 826 OPS last year, had 31 doubles. He had 52 barrels last year, which ranked 24th in the big leagues. And then you talk about what he's got with the glove. 12 outs above average last year, ranked 8th in the MLB. Got a cannon. Couple things I'd like to see, figured out a little bit. I'm not going to critique the guy too much. You know what I mean? He was huge and electric and quickly has stepped in as a fan favorite. I'd like to see him walk a little bit more. The chase rate is pretty high. It's not great. He had 29 walks last year compared to 101 strikeouts. So I think it's weird because like some of those numbers, like sometimes you can look at like bat to ball skills being pretty good. And then sometimes it ends up being a lower chase rate because of those good bat to ball skills. Sometimes he expands the zone and, doesn't walk a ton. So I'd like to see a little more walking happening. But the things to note here is that a lot of what he did last year, majority of the ABs were in the 6 and 7 hole. And I wanted to look up what the Padres were looking to do this year. And I looked up the projected lineup. Both Fangraphs and RotoChamp have him hitting third this year. sandwiched between Tatis and Machado, which that's a big jump. That's a big difference. That's a whole new conversation. It's one thing to hang out in the 6, 7, 8 spot. It's a whole nother thing when your responsibility is to protect a Fernando Tatis and to get on base for a Manny Machado. So I'm curious to see how that works out. Can you ride the vibes? Can the waves of last year's success and hype carry you into that next year? I mean, I think so. I like him. The guy's confident. He doesn't give me I'm quietly going about my business and getting lucky kind of vibe. This dude is like, no, I'm here for the spotlight. I'm living it. I'm loving it. And I really like the three. I really like a lefty splitting up Tatis and Machado. So it's crazy to me that he's 21. It's crazy. The amount of talent, the amount of names I could have chosen today. I had so many names to play with.
That's what I'm saying, man. So
it's awesome. I think he's going to be really good. I think the Padres are going to continue to be good. So
they've had a disappointing offseason, though.
They did have a rough offseason. I don't think, you mentioned earlier that you think the Dodgers and the Padres are going to finish in the top of that division. I actually think the Diamondbacks are going to be better than the Padres this year.
It's fair.
Maybe
that was more wishful thinking for me,
sure,
because I just want that to be like, I just want the Dodgers. Everybody wants the Dodgers and Padres to be something. We got it. We got such a sweet glimpse of that in the postseason, and I need that to continue.
I think parts of it will. I think they're probably just in a weird place, but the future's bright with this kid, and I love seeing big pieces that are that young step in and just be a part of the plan and be a cornerstone right away. And a 21-year-old center fielder hitting third. Yeah, give me that. So
that's on like a
might have to pop out
man.
there, bro. It is. Might have to pop out there, catch some games, see it live. Well, at least see him in spring training, I think.
Catch my guy Xander. Slated to be the shortstop this year, by the way. I don't know if you saw that.
He's also dropped down in the order quite a bit. Dropped him down to 6.
Not worried about it. My last guy. Look, I don't even think he's not projected to even make the opening day roster. It's certainly a possibility. But even if he doesn't, I think it'll be just a matter of time. Roman Anthony of the Red Sox, the second prospect in all of baseball, could make the argument that he's first, because does Roki Sasaki really count? I mean, if we're being honest,
I don't think so.
He's pretty much.
I hate that.
He amassed pretty much a full career over in Japan before coming over here. It feels like, but anyway. Yes, Roman Anthony, comps to Christian Yelich, Andrew Benintendi types, which take that how you will. I choose to believe that a comp to Christian Yelich is a comp to a Christian Yelich that didn't get marred by, what was it, back injuries?
Yeah.
So, however that, in an alternate universe, however that career would have panned out is what I like to think that Roman Anthony is capable of doing. The power, dude, he's got like plus power.
He's a first baseman?
Outfielder. This is, I feel like I have to choose my words carefully here. This is a guy, and I hate doing this to guys that aren't even on the squad yet, but this could be a guy that could, I think, bear the brunt of fan base's expectations for a team, given the fact that I think Red Sox fans should. I mean, we'll see what happens with Bregman and possibly Arenado. But should he come up? Should he live up to the hype that's on his shoulders right now? Could bear the brunt of the expectations of a fan base who I think, generally speaking, is pretty disappointed. And yeah, I mean, Garrett Crochet and some other moves. I still think that they were hoping for more this offseason. So,
oh my gosh,
it's just.
Look at some of these numbers.
Yeah, dude, it's scary to think if we get some of these prospects up, what this could look like. And I may have to quietly from the back of the room tip my cap to Heimblum for creating what is now officially ranked as the top farm system in baseball. Don't know if you saw that today, but yeah, I think Roman Anthony could play a huge role. Should he get up early enough and have enough time to make an impact? I think he's going to be one of those guys similar to Jackson Merrill, like you talked about, who will likely need very limited time to get his feet on the ground and to get things moving. Because this guy's he's a gamer, he's a ball player. And like I said, the power's there, the athleticism is there. Watch out for Roman Anthony.
Dang. Looking at these numbers, it's like, it's interesting. I mean, looks like a doubles machine. Looks like looks like a pretty walk in the park 2020 guy.
2020 guy. Yeah, he had an OPS 894 across double and AAA last year. 18 bombs, 32 doubles to your point, 65 RBIs, and hit 291. So
walks a lot too. Yeah. Yeah, man. For sure. Scary. Scary stuff.
Would love to support that hype with maybe one more move, but we shall see. Speaking of moves, Jack Flaherty heading back to Detroit on a 2-year, $35 million contract, pretty front-loaded, 25 in the first year, an opt-out after the first year, $10 million to follow in the second year. Could also be worth $20 million in the second year if he starts at least 15 games. I don't know. How do you feel? Because I think he was looking to get, or he was projected rather, for like a 5-year, 100 plus, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think he was more so about the length than anything else. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, dude. It's tough. I was a little surprised to see that the market wasn't a little hotter for him.
I don't.
But he
really
has this up and down, inconsistent career path that makes you question committing to him long term. And this is kind of what we were talking about with like some of these other big free agent names, is that some of these teams that are a little bit slept on can kind of slide in right now. And if you can at least scratch the itch on AAV or years, you may be able to steal a name that you weren't necessarily in the hunt for or in the running for in the beginning of the offseason. And I don't think anyone really had a reunion with the Tigers on their bingo card for Flaherty. But I like it because this is what they needed to do. We talked about them running into, a little bit of like I'm not going to say buzzsaw, but like they ran out of steam in the postseason with their starting pitching. And, like the bullpen games were cute, but like it's not something that is going to get you through the entire postseason, especially if you have to go through the wild card round. So shoring up the rotation, is important, and that's what they needed to do, and they did it. And they've made some interesting moves this offseason. I think they have a weird amount of infielders that I'm not quite sure what to do with. But I keep hearing rumors that, for some reason, Spencer Torkelson and Jordan Montgomery seem to, like, I feel like that rumor is out there, and it's just one of those that just makes sense. Like, do that, get Jordan Montgomery out of Phoenix, dude, because he's clearly not wanted. Give him a chance, but, like, I don't know. I like the move. I like that they stepped in and got it done. And you're not overly committed. You have the money to spend. You didn't have to fork over a commitment in the years category, and you obviously saw success there in a pitcher's ballpark. So,
do you think if he goes out and has a season worth writing home about, to sort of keep the momentum, the snowball rolling, if you will, that started last year or this past season, do you think that's enough momentum to warrant finally offering some sort of length to him? Because if I'm Jack Flaherty, I'm looking at the way my market went this offseason, the way that my career's gone, and I'm taking like a 3-year deal if somebody's offering it to me. Like, to me, it's sort of risky to settle for a 1-year deal here. I'm not saying it's a negative risk necessarily, but it is an inherent, objectively, I think it is a risk, because you're going to be another year older. You're going to be on the other side of 30, you're going to be on the other side of 30. And unless you go out and just light it up, I just think it's going to, the market, assuming he opts out, thinking that he can maybe try his luck again, I just think the market's going to be more of the same. And he's again, having that additional year under his belt of age, I think is possibly going to play against it. So I'm wondering if his market was truly that bad, or if maybe there was like a 3 or 4 year deal out there that he simply just didn't want to take because he wanted to go back
out there.
That's what I'm saying. So unless he lights it up, I just don't see his market really changing year to year, unless he goes out and does something that we just haven't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, look at what Blake Snell had to do. And that's Blake Snell. You know what I'm saying? Like, no disrespect to Jack Flaherty. He ain't Blake Snell. So this betting on yourself in your early 30s as a pitcher, it's strange and it's difficult. And I agree. I don't really see too much changing outside of like a top 5 Cy Young performance. I think that's what you need if you're Jack Flaherty in order to get a 3-year deal. And it's even then, I doubt it's the AAV you're going to be looking for. Like, if I were him, I'd be happy with a 3-year 60 with an option for the 4th.
Yeah.
Like a club option for the 4th. Like, I'd be thrilled with that. That's just kind of we're in a weird place where, like, a lot of, I know Ken Rosenthal was on a podcast talking about it a little bit. Like, we're in a weird place where teams are just like really waiting out and bleeding free agents in a different way that we haven't seen before. And I feel like, even agents are like not totally sure how to handle this or what to do. So yeah, man, I don't know. Like, it's a weird place to be, but I think he's going to a place where he's obviously had success and he's familiar. And again, you're kind of hiding behind a Tarek Skubal in the one spot. But I think they need to shore up a little bit more in that rotation. They need to do a little bit more. And Torkelson seems to be the name that a lot of people are shipping out of town for somebody. Jordan Montgomery's out for the taking. Just go do that.
Yeah. You mentioned agents. One of the more well-known agents, Scott Boras, the latest on one of his clients, Alex Bregman, is that the Astros reportedly claim they have lost Bregman. So safe to say we can rule out a Bregman to Houston reunion. And that came from GM Dana Brown. Which really leaves him with Boston, Detroit, and Toronto, I believe, are the three teams even remotely connected to him or have shown any interest or have been linked because they're a good fit. It frankly does not seem like Boston wants him at this point. Speaking of Boston, the whole Nolan Arenado rumor mill seemed to start back up this week, so I'm not sure what's happening there. At this point,
that could be a part of the play too. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're the Red Sox and Bregman wants to play there, Bregman's camp is like, hey, let's get this done. There's nothing. I mean, we see these games being played all the time, especially using the media to, manufacture certain narratives. And I think it's something that, like, if you're the Red Sox, why not? Why not just be like, hey, you know what? We're actually pretty close with this Arenado thing. And Arenado's been quoted saying he'd love to play here. So, it's all, a little bit of a game of chess. But, yeah, I mean, I think if you're the Blue Jays, why not? Like, you don't really have much to lose. You've had a pretty good offseason. I think this would put you over into an A category, A plus category for the offseason if you get this done. And it just makes sense. It just makes sense there. I do think Boston does make sense. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know, man. Like when you look at the numbers and you kind of take a deeper dive into Bregman, you're like, I don't know if this ages well. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if
not the length that he wants. No, that would not age well. But
I don't think it looks great towards the end.
The longer this plays out, the longer this draws out, it's just gonna result in what I think is going to be a repeat of how we viewed Boras last year in just not being able to figure something, like essentially having his bluff called, and not just by one team, but by multiple teams saying, look, we might want this guy, but we're not gonna jump the gun here because we know that the team down the road or across the country is not really interested in doing the same.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna wait this out. And if he falls into our lap, then so be it. But we see we hear what he wants. We know that it's not gonna age well. And so we'd like to meet in the middle, but if you're not willing to meet there, then good luck finding something somewhere else. So I don't know what's going to happen with either Bregman or Arenado at this point. Well, Arenado's obviously a different scenario. I just don't know.
But this is what I'm saying about like a sneaky team, dude. This is the time to sneak in.
Yeah, we're getting into mystery team territory.
If you're a Seattle Mariners, like go get one of the two. Go get Bregman. Go get Pete. One of the two. Go. I don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand what they're waiting on.
For these guys to be like $7.
I guess, man. It's hard to watch. I wouldn't be in a great place mentally if I was a Mariners fan.
How would you feel if you're a Cubs fan? Because Cubs acquired Ryan Brasier from the Dodgers in a trade. This is after the Dodgers DFA'd Brasier, which is wild, really, if you think about it, because there for a minute, he had like he went on a run, I feel like, where he was sitting at like a 1.5 or something, right?
I think it'd be a solid bullpen piece on any other roster. It's just no room to breathe over there in LA, you know?
He finished with a 3.54, but there was, he had a run last year where he was dotting it up.
It's a good deal.
The Cubs, man. You talk about can we call it a sneaky offseason? I mean, I know they went and got Tucker. That's a little louder than sneaky, but
they sneaking.
And I don't want to tiptoe into any of our hot takes for our preseason predictions episode, but I don't know, little pieces here and there.
Yeah. We'll see, man. We'll see.
Climbing up the ranks in the Central, maybe.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the NL Central is the new AL Central. Can I go ahead and drop that?
In what way? In what way?
I think the AL Central has gotten a lot better than the NL Central. I just don't see good ball coming out of there from top to bottom. You know? Like, it's hard to sit here and say that the Brewers got that much better.
You could
when you lose the Devin Williams, you lose the Willie Adames, and you don't do anything else.
Sure.
Like, it's hard to say that team is just going to waltz in and do their thing. The Cardinals are lost. Do you hear all this stuff about Jim Edmonds?
Oh, yeah, dude. That
made
me actually angry.
I don't know
made
what
me
this organization is doing.
Unreal.
You're playing games with your prospects. I don't get it. I don't get it. So the NL Central is like the bottom of the barrel for me.
You could have made this argument coming into last year, given how high we were on the Royals.
Yeah. You could say, I think it's official now. I think it's definitely official now, considering none of these teams has really done anything. And the Cubs, are at a point where they can go after it a little bit. I'd like to see a little something. Give me Rizzo back in Wrigley. You know what I mean? Give me a little spark. Give me a little juice. Give me a little something. Give me a little late off-season veteran signing that can provide a little something. Just give me something. I like what they did with Tucker, though.
Now, Cubs are moving, despite some earlier comments this offseason about players are expensive, they're moving in the right direction, at least for this year. What happens beyond 2025, it's hard to say, because it seems like they might be trying to push their chips in for this year and just
I don't know. I do think
come up for water next year. I don't know.
Me saying the Rizzo name, by the way, I do think that there is something in an Anthony Rizzo that doesn't need to play every day. I think there's a lot of something that he can bring to a table that when he's not playing every day are relied on.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's time to just close that book for good. I think just maybe move. Just keep doing what you're doing. It was great. It was a great chapter in the Chicago Cubs book, but no need to bring Rizzo back.
What do you got then? Anything else? You feel good about that team?
They could be. I mean, they weren't one of the teams that I think are technically connected to like a Bregman, but could be the Cubs could be one of those mystery teams that are in on Bregman. We don't know. And especially talking about those comments where players are expensive, if they're not looking to spend a whole lot of money, this thing draws out much longer. His price goes down. Maybe they get to a point where they're comfortable and they jump on it. Who knows?
I don't hate their pitching when I'm looking at it, to be honest.
No. Speaking of money, though, sort of closing the book here. Alluded to it earlier. Pat Hoberg, Major League umpire, who is no longer a Major League umpire, has been fired by Major League Baseball for his association with a known gambler.
His friend, his buddy.
Using the Telegraph app, I guess they had shared logins and accounts. I swear, man, you hear some of these mishaps. Well, they're not really mishaps. They're very much intentional. They just get these individuals get caught, but just some of the practices that go into or the lack of thinking that goes into some of these decisions that these guys who,
You're like, are you not making enough money?
break the rules. No, it's not even the money thing, but it's the way they go about it. Like if you did want extra money, maybe tie up your loose ends a little better than having shared accounts and things like that. Like there's just got to be a better way to go about it.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
like Pat Hoberg, MLB at gmail.com.
Ultimately, the takeaway here is that baseball's losing one of its better umpires. He's
a great umpire.
He did have the perfect game, quote unquote, for as far as it goes for umpires. Back in the the 2022 World Series?
Sure.
Yeah, had the perfect game. So he's one of the better umps when it comes to balls and strikes. So you hate to see that what seems like a very small pool of guys that are capable of calling such things and calling them well. You hate to see one fall by the wayside, but
alas, this and they only netted $35,000.
Hate to see it. And lastly here, the spring training hats have dropped. Some different, some not. I believe I saw your Yankees were the only team to have a home and a road hat.
The home one ain't nice.
Yeah, home one is hideous. The Mets one, I saw a lot of commentary on the Mets spring training hat with the baseball wearing sunglasses.
Why not?
Just get weird with it.
Who cares? You're gonna dump them next year anyway. Like, whatever. I don't mind it. Get fun.
Yeah, get weird.
There are some ugly ones in there, but
it is funny looking at the teams that just can't really get all that weird with it because they have to adhere to some degree of tradition, like the Red Sox. I don't know how many different times we're going to alternate between the red hat with the blue brim and the white letter to the blue hat with the red brim and the white letter. I'm just like, I see where the red tape exists for you, but is there nothing else we can do? I don't know. It's not a huge deal. Just spring training hats, but yeah, check them out if you haven't seen them. There are some pretty fascinating ones. So if you're a hat collector, check them out. Blue Jays. What do the Blue Jays do?
Nothing. They did nothing.
That's a clean hat, though. I'm not even going to knock it.
It's a nice hat, but like change it up a little bit. Do something a little different. Rockies. Yeah. What do we?
Rockies.
You had a great spring training hat with the mountains in the background a few years ago.
Rockies are officially done trying.
They're just dead in the water.
Speaking of being done, let's get out of here. No time for a draft. Obviously went a little deeper on the players under 25 to bet on for 2025 segment. So we'll get back to the draft next week. Hopefully we have some free agency updates to cover, some signings to cover.
Hopefully.
You got anything else?
I'll be at Waste Management tomorrow. Wish me luck.
Oh, that'll be fun. Good luck.
Nice. That's why I rocked the green light going today.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. It's going to be sick. It's going to be sick. For work.
Sure.
Whole lot of food. And adult beverages.
There you go. Chalk it up to work.
Yeah. Love you guys. Don't you dare go chasing curveballs.
Love you all. And as always, looking forward to talking more baseball with you guys soon. Until next time, stay filthy.